Hi, everybody. I'm William Ronan. For my analysis, I decided to do The Wolf of Wall Street. It was a novel written by Jordan Belfort, released in 2007. It was made into a film directed by Martin Scorsese in 2013. The story of Jordan Belfort and his experiences as a stockbroker takes place in the mid 1980s and stretches through a time frame that goes all the way to the mid 90s. Majority of the events take place in Long Island, New York. The story is about the author, Jordan Belfort, who was a stockbroker and opened the investment firm Stratton Oakmont, and talks about how he became extremely wealthy very fast. And as a result of his extravagant wealth, uh, dives into a life full of gluttony, debauchery, and some really depraved acts. Um, the novel and the film both really focus on the theme of addiction and how the addictions that Belfort falls a victim to consume his life and make him, extremely weak um, mentally. He makes a lot of mistakes, and um, through his addictions, he also loses a lot of what's valuable in life. And you never get the sense that he's truly having any joy in his life without these addictions. And eventually, he is caught for securities fraud and has to become a government witness in order to avoid spending his life in prison. Um, some major characters are, Jordan Belfort himself, who in the film is played by Leonardo DiCaprio. His wife Nadine is Naomi in the film, and she's played by Margot Robbie. Danny in the book is his best friend and business associate, who goes by Donnie in the film, and is portrayed by Jonah Hill. Um, Steve Madden, the shoe designer, is very present in both versions of this story. And in the film, he is portrayed by Jake Hoffman, who is Dustin Hoffman's son, and Mark Hanna, who is Jordan's mentor in the investment world, is portrayed by Matthew McConaughey in the film. And that theme of addiction is very present in both the film and the novel. In the novel, Belfort's source of addiction is drugs. He is specifically addicted to Quaaludes and cocaine. Quaaludes are a type of painkiller that was banned by the FDA in the early 80s because if you resisted the urge to sleep on those painkillers, you would become incredibly high. And this source of addiction in the film is really a point of pride for Belfort. He talks about, he can take more drugs than anybody he knows. And at one point, he brags about taking up to 18 Quaaludes a day. And, that's makes him proud. In the novel, he talks about, he takes more drugs than, half the people that live in, downstate New York. But, none of them are as important or as impressive to him as his addiction to money. The opening line in the film is, he made $49 million a week. And that pissed him off because he didn't make $1 million a week. He was that addicted to making as much money as possible. Both in the film and the novel, his addictions make him feel invincible, but ultimately they lead to his downfall. And, that's something the reviewers kind of hit hard on. They talk about, for example, in the British Journal of General Practice, they talk about how, the film of The Wolf of Wall Street is very, seductive and very, addicting to watch. The actions, the hedonistic actions that he takes, place in his life are very, captivating to audiences. But through his addiction, he has no principles, he has no morals. And that's very, obvious in the film, where in the movie, you know, they talk about drug use and, it drives him, it makes him angry, and it makes him, depraved and vulnerable. And, you get the sense in the novel, because it's, a tell-all memoir, that he's, confessing some vulnerable moments and, moments he's not proud of due to his addictions. Um, there are some differences between the film and the novel. The novel focuses on Belfort's life after his investment firm Stratton Oakmont closes down. He leaves it due to a negotiation with the Securities and Exchange Commission, And then within 18 months after that, it closes for good as part of that settlement. But the bigger focus is on, that addiction is drugs, Quaaludes and cocaine. There's a moment where he fights with his wife. And in the novel that's based on, she doesn't like watching him use drugs. It's very bothersome to her. In the film, that fight scene is based on his wife asking for a divorce. In the film, the other things that it changes from the book is it puts more emphasis and kind of makes his criminal lifestyle and lavish spending very very seductive to the viewer. And his focus of addiction is on money. And he doesn't leave his firm in the film, which I think adds to the, eventuality of his arrest. There's a very climactic theatrical scene where he, makes a speech in front of his employees that he's absolutely not leaving Stratton Oakmont. And I think that, adds to, more proof that, this guy is so addicted to money, he can't even give up his job to avoid going to jail. One of the scenes that I thought really, captivates how, addicted he is and how much it consumes him is his wife's aunt dies. And, the only thing in the book that he cares about when he gets the call that she's passed is his wife interrupts him getting high and using cocaine. Where in the novel, that scene is very, anticlimactic because it involves, him and then ignoring his wife completely and addressing that he has to go to Switzerland to deal with his offshore bank accounts. And he really blows his wife off and says, I loved your aunt, but she's dead and I need to deal with business while I'm alive. Which, is completely, absent of any empathy for somebody. But that's because, her death affects his money because she was his outlet from the United States to get money into Europe. So, it's just more evidence that, his addiction consumed him and it was the only thing that mattered. I also talked like the scene where Jordan goes to lunch on his first day as a stockbroker with Mark Hanna, who's a mentor to him, but also is a visual image of all things that Jordan will become. Mark Hanna is very outlandish. He uses drugs openly. He talks about, having sex with prostitutes and, doing actions that Jordan at the time is very like, absolutely not. I won't do any of this. But then later on, you see he not only does these things, but he passes Hanna with his outlandish behavior. And in the novel, this acts as a very, telling, part of, this is what he's going to become, whether he wants to or not. And he passes it off. But, it's a very foreshadowing moment for Belfort. I thought the film did a good job of hitting those sources of addiction. I thought the book definitely, opens people's eyes to, addiction and, how it leads to his depravity, his gluttony, and, his, very lavish lifestyle. But Martin Scorsese doesn't so much focus on the business end of Belfort's life as he does the partying and the captivating lifestyle, which I understand. Talking about business in a movie is probably not very captivating for audiences. The film definitely glamours up a lot of his life, makes his parties look outrageous and his wedding, crazy. Even scenes when Jordan's yacht sinks are very glammed up. I don't think this takes away from the overall theme, but I think it definitely says a lot that he had to remove certain things. So that's all.